part of this whole event is that this is meant to be informative as well as a fundraiser. So I have worked on securing interviews with people who I feel are important to hear from within the autism community, at least as it respects to Twitch and everything like that. And one of those interviews is going to be happening right now. So we're going to take some time for just a moment and, actually quite a long hot minute actually. And we're going to have a talk with Steph, aka 1863 Project. I'm not sure if you prefer the numbers be said differently, but
no, that's it. 1863. It's a date. Yeah.
All right, good. So Steph, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh gosh. Okay. I have to do this without swearing. Okay.
Now you can swear.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. It's hard not to drop F-bombs everywhere.
Y'all good?
Yeah, so I'm Steph. Initiative. It's a streaming group of all autistic streamers. We stream once a month, usually the last weekend, to promote the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network. So yeah, I'm out of New Jersey, just outside of New York City. You might hear Murphy, my cat, screaming in the middle of this interview because he's sitting with me. I apologize.
All good.
He just makes noise. There he is. Yes, they're very loud. I'm, I guess, yeah, I'm 30 years old. I was diagnosed at age 20, Murph. And so 10 years ago, this was my 10-year diagnosis. It's kind of a big deal. And in my day job, I'm actually an archivist and historian. Is what I do, like in real life.
Oh, that's really cool.
Thank you. Yes, it's good. I don't have to talk to people, so it's pretty great.
Also good. Actually, my second question was about how old you were when you were diagnosed.
Yeah.
I'm 30 and I was diagnosed at age 23. So actually kind of probably share a similar perspective with you on the next questions that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So you probably didn't receive any services growing up as it relates to autism, right?
No. I got nothing. I mean, I was in, and nobody really noticed much of anything because I had a couple of marks against me, so to speak. I was a girl, and girls are less likely to be diagnosed right off the bat. And then I was doing well in school, so they didn't think anything was really wrong, even though I didn't have, too many friends growing up till high school. So the people didn't really, they just kind of, and I had this, sense that I was different, and I just didn't know how I was different. So the diagnosis was a big relief. But it should have been a lot easier to get, and it just wasn't because I was growing up in the 90s. There wasn't that much information out there. Nowadays, people would have probably pegged it immediately. They would have been like, yeah, this girl's on the spectrum, and it help her. But I didn't really get any services growing up, and it took a mental breakdown at college to get me diagnosed.
Okay, great.
I like the Twitch stream because I can see when you're awake.
It was a relief, but, I should have been diagnosed a lot sooner. It wasn't. Murph, he's not asking you. He's asking me. Come on. Everyone's asking me. Thank you for your contribution.
First off, sorry, I'm going to interrupt for just a moment. Thank you, yo mom-in-law, for the $50 donation. Thank you, Kate. I like the Twitch stream because I can see when you're awake. I'm around. I promise. I'm not 2 doors away and not attending to the people in my life or anything. Shush. So yeah, I bet you probably got a lot of the same thing that I got as a kid, where you're just quirky. All the idiosyncrasies were just sort of explained away as it's just a quirk. It's just who they are, sort of a thing, right?
Yeah, one of those.
Oh, I feel that in my bones. So, did you have any like stims or anything like that as a kid? For context, for the neurotypical people in this chat, stim is sort of like usually it's like a repetitive behavior. It's a stimulatory behavior that sort of people with autism do to keep calm. Did you have any of those as a kid? Do you have any now? And how do people react to them?
Mine are pretty quiet. Like I'm actually doing it right now. I have this like pacifier blanket that I got when I was a baby, and I tend to, when I'm at home, I stim with the patterns on in the fabric. But like I tend to be a very quiet stimmer. Like it's kind of I'll touch something, mostly small, just kind of in my, or have it in my hand and just kind of feel so people didn't really notice, I guess, that I was, doing this, which again, like if it was like bigger or more noticeable, like flapping hands or moving my legs around a lot, like people would probably notice that, but nobody really noticed because my stims were quiet. Like they were, like I didn't have any like auditory, like I didn't have echolalia or any of. So I just kind of went, because my stims were quiet, they kind of made me go under the radar a bit.
Right.
Which, so again, people didn't really notice, but I do tend to be very, like my 90% of my stimming is very like tactile with my fingers. Like I like to feel like patterns in fabric, and, like the textures of things.
Right.
Sorry, I have a bit of a cold still. I apologize.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I'll be going into my own in the panel discussion later. So we're just mostly going to do this sort of an interview format. I'll just try and keep it going forward. Do you have any like? So you mentioned that you're an archivist and historian. Do you have any like hyper focus on specific topics?
Yeah. No, go ahead. Finish the question.
And have they changed since you were like a kid versus today? And how were they received? How are they received?
So I guess the first one was I really wanted to be a paleontologist as a child. So I was up on my dinosaurs. Then astronomy was the other one. So I was really up on space and dinosaurs. I was like that kid. And then I discovered in middle school that I wasn't really good enough at math to pursue the sciences, and I was very crestfallen. But I discovered that I could history, and that just kind of really pulled me starting in high school. That's how I kind of ended up doing what I do. In terms of history, like my two big areas that I'm very attached to are baseball and comedy history. And I think I'm actually better known around as like for comedy history because it's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
To like research, but it's fun. It's a good thing. It's a good thing of social history. You can see what a society considered acceptable or unacceptable based on what was okay to laugh at. And so I do a lot of work with that, and it's very illuminating actually. But it's just such a strange thing that I have to. And so when I explain it to people, they're just, "Wait, what research in your spare time?" Luckily, when I went to, I also had like a background in military, which is a lot easier to explain. So I went to Gettysburg College for my undergrad degree, and I did minor in Civil War era studies. Like I have a pretty strong American Civil War background.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a minor only offered at Gettysburg, and it's really neat, very. But it's a lot easier to explain that than I was researching British double X until 3 a.m. last night. So how are you? Yeah.
That's probably where the 1863 project part comes in. Is that right?
Yes, Battle of Gettysburg.
There we go.
So, yeah. That, and I was writing something else that actually happened in the same year. So I was like, I've got the.
You're cutting out just a bit.
Sorry, that's that's like my. So there we are.
how have you accommodated to seem normal in a world that routinely presents difficulties for people with autism trying to fit in?
Yeah. I've gotten unfortunately good at masking. Not that I, you know, like doing it.
I think it's something
Uh,
that we both kind of had to do growing up without a sense of what we were. We just had to like learn to, blend in before we even discovered that we were autistic, though. Yeah.
yeah, and like I mean, I even like well before I was diagnosed, I just kind of suppressed a lot of myself in public. Like I couldn't really be, I guess, entirely myself in some ways. I mean, sometimes I could get away with it. They just like, oh, she's just a quirky girl. It's okay. But like some of my other things, I had to kind of actively like hide. Like I temper my enthusiasm for things I really care about a lot in public for a long time because people would tell me I was like way too into these things, uh, all that, and I'm like, well, that's nice. You got a business degree, and I'm getting paid to do it. I'm getting paid to do the thing I like, so screw you.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah. I'm like, don't tell me to shut up about history because I'm getting paid for it now. But like when it was, I could just go on and on about like cared about it. I was kind of basically shunned for this, so I kind of learned to hide, that talk about a lot of my interests outside of my family or my very close friends. They
Right.
were judged, and I was judged for liking them and liking them in the way I did. So I remember being very, nervous to like enjoy things openly for a long time until I came to terms with things in adulthood. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
At this point, there's no not to
Right.
help somebody else see if they see enthusiastic adult, then they can be enthusiastic as a kid, and maybe it'll help. So
Hell yeah. Um, do you consider autism a central part of your identity as a person? And if so,
uh
do you consider that beneficial or detrimental today?
interesting mix. Because yeah, it's definitely like in terms of like intersection activism, yeah, it definitely would be. Like I'm at this intersection. I'm a woman, but I'm a white woman, but I'm autistic. And so I know I do a lot of disability like active stuff. So like I'm pretty open about being autistic. It's pretty a big deal. And since I've, gotten more into activism and doing stuff with AGI, I emphasize it more, I think, than I used to. Um, but it can be tough being openly autistic. I think made it harder for me for a while in the job pool because people would Google me and then they'd see like, oh, this disability and it's not going to affect working in a library. Like, so, it just it was hard for a while to get employed because I was open about what I did. Um, and then I started speaking at conferences about big librarians. There's this annual libraries and autism conference in Illinois, and I've spoken at it twice now. And I think that may have been uh, like that may have really been the point where it kind of turned because then people realized I was not only this thing, but I was also actually like doing a lot with this thing, and was basically an expert in things. So it kind of made people maybe rethink things. I mean, it's kind of a case of like, I tend to be back and forth on when I can open up about it. Like, I don't really know I don't always open up about it to people in real life for a while. I trust they'll be okay with it. Whereas online, like, a lot of the time people meet through being autistic, so it's very different.
Right.
And sometimes it has benefited me in that I've made like a lot of mistakes through it, and being focused on my areas of research has actually brought some really great friends into my life as well. And actually, that's how I met my roommate, which is comedy people, and so that worked out really well. But it's in real life, it's a little harder. To be a lot more. People are a lot more. They make assumptions more in real life. I get but you don't look autistic a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really tired of that. It's
So
like
exhausted.
there's no way to look autistic. I'm just kind of like, so like, what did you expect me to like look like?
All
I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I'm just hiding it because people like you are judgmental. Like, geez, like,
Yeah, I feel like that also carries the connotation that, like, in order to be autistic, you need to be weird or other. Um,
yeah, and it's like, yeah. And I mean, while I am weird, some some days I'm more acceptably weird than others.
right. I just
So
mean, like,
I can't.
visibly different.
Yeah, the visible differences are like they think that like, oh, you're not like my child, or you're because you have a job or you have a master's in library science.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me any less autistic than your child. Shut up. Like we're all it's a spectrum. We all have different strengths. Mine happen strength happened to be academia.
Yeah.
So, but I've never been on a date. I have trouble meeting people. I'm not always the best with friends. Sometimes I get really overwhelmed by crowds and have to go home. Like, I have deficits.
Right. Um, so you've touched on the AGI a couple times. Um,
Yeah.
so you're the founder of AGI, which is the Autistic Gaming Initiative.
Yeah.
Um, what is the Autistic Gaming Initiative? What does it do?
Okay. So uh, in early 2017, I was watching a lot of Vine Celeste, and I was like backtracking. I was watching Vinny's Tomodachi series, and I watched the video where they did the it was part of it was Tomodachi was part of the charity stream that they do annually. They do this big charity stream for pediatric cancer research. It's amazing. They're at the point now where they regularly raise like $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Uh, and because it got big enough. And I was watching it, and I was, well, this is something I would like to do, but like for the autism charities I support. And so I put a call out on Tumblr, basically, hey, are there any gamers who would want to do this? We'd all have to learn to stream, but we do this maybe once a month. Sorry.
No, you're good.
And would anyone be interested? And I got a few people who are interested. And we started this. We were a pretty small Discord server at the beginning, and we started, growing our reach slowly. And there's now over 100 people in that server. Great, blows my mind. Been now almost. It'll be 3 years in February since I started that server,
Nice.
and that's like kind of amazing to me. Our first stream was in May of 2017, and it was just a 12-hour block of, I think we all took like a couple hours. And then June we did a 24-hour straight stream where we basically, we went for 4 hours straight, which raises several questions about me because I was modding the entire thing sleep, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but whatever. So we started kind of splitting it up and doing two 12-hour blocks over 2 days over the weekend, and it worked pretty well. So that's kind of the format we've stuck with,
Okay.
and it's been good. So what we do is we raise money and awareness of the two charities, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network. They're both run by and for autistic people. They have a lot of resources for adults, people who are otherwise underserved by the autistic, researching that maybe. So like girls, non-binary folks, people in general, people who aren't white, people who generally get missed, like who aren't like cisgender white boys,
Right.
who would be, who would get missed. And they, so these charities are big on so we started, doing that, and we've also just kind of, initially our goal was to raise money for them, but it's hard for donate every month, so we've kind of become more of a community for autists, express themselves, be autistic, help each other out, and, just assist each other. And it's like this weird online autistic community now of gamers. It's great, and I've I've gotten to meet a few people in the server, and it's just awesome. So happy. And we've actually got people who are building real friendships in here and building connections in here. And like people in the server are just able to help each other out all the time via like, donate to each other for like, medical food or gas or other things, or, helping each other find places to live, helping each other, find accommodations and like how to do certain tasks. It's been really phenomenal support group that I couldn't have even imagined at the beginning. And the community is just incredible. I'm so proud of all of these people. And I'm really honored to call them my friends because they're just all amazing. I can't believe they put up with an absolute bastard like me. But it's kind of great. They're just fantastic people, and I'm so glad to know them. And we'll be streaming next weekend. Will be our regular stream. So the 28th and the 29th will be our. So you definitely you can catch us if you just follow our Twitter at Autistic Gamers. You can check in and see what we're up to.
Perfect. I'm gonna link that on the Twitch chat as well. Give me a sec.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, we have there should be a link to the Discord in our profile, so you can find us there and you can just like join. And we've got chats, everything, like all sorts of various interests. We've got art chats, creative writing chats. We have a politics chat that has been interestingly busy the past few years. I wonder why. We've got an LGBTQ specific chat for questions of that nature, support of that nature. We've got like all sorts of, and then channels just based on like interests. Like I made a comedy myself,
Nice.
and I cry in it all the. I just go in there and I cry in it all the time. And occasionally people are like, "Oh yeah, that guy's funny." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But yeah, so it's been very good. I think in terms of helping people find each other, I think that's probably what AGI's biggest has been. It's just been helping people finding each other, and I'm really honored to be part of.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to drop in on a couple of other people's streams and everything like that, and it's been really fun. And a couple of people have dropped in on mine too, and it's like it's cool to like be part of a streaming community that's like about me, for me, and also I'm part of it being about other people as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
You've sort of touched on a lot of the questions that I already had to ask or wanted to ask, but I'll come back to a couple of them. But there was something that really stuck out to me that I wanted to elaborate on because I feel like it's a very important thing that gets missed by most people. And I know the answers to these, or at least I feel like I know some right answers to these, but this is for people in chat. Why the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network? Why is it important to specifically have that group?
Okay, yeah, that group is like amazing. So I'm actually friends with the president of it. Report. She is incredible. So she founded that group with regards to the fact that women and non-binary folks are much less likely to be diagnosed than cisgender white males, especially young boys. Like the popular culture image of autism is a white male. Usually it's either a child or it's an adult who's either barely functional or is like horribly stereotyped, meaning like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory is just horribly stereotyped. I think he's really more a case of obsessive compulsive personality disorder, but whatever. And because prevalent image in the media include and autism, those absolutely. I'm gonna be, I'm not gonna get into why I hate them right now. But yeah.
We can talk about that later.
Amongst their other sins, they've contributed to the image of autism, this like great white boy.
Oh yeah.
And children, like they don't really talk about that. A thing that is lifelong, that you are autistic. So other organizations kind of been slack. So the Autistic Women Non-Binary Network is one of those, and their big thing is to help get girls diagnosed, to help get underprivileged youth diagnosed. They have a reparations fund for autistic women of color who have suffered abuse and neglect and all sorts of things. They can help them get back on their feet. It's really awesome. I love that they're doing that. And they really are they are filling a need that is so huge. And I wish I'd known about them when I was first really diagnosed. Don't even know if they were fully around. But their resources are geared more towards women and folks who don't really identify as male or female. And they're trans inclusive, of course, which is very important. And,
Yes.
Because, we don't like TERFs. AGI is, I'm just going to go on the record, AGI is anti-TERF.
I want to make a statement on that. Because there's been a lot of discourse about TERFs. And I feel like it's misdirected. I promise this is one of those, they had us in the first half, not going to lie. So, TERF is a slur against feminists because it assumes that people that are trans exclusionary are correctly self-identifying as feminist, which is why I propose that henceforth in this discussion, if they're being brought up, we refer to them as feminist appropriating radical transphobes, aka farts.
Okay, yeah, because you're not really a feminist.
Yeah.
Trans. So yeah, there you go.
Fuck farts.
Yeah, so there you go. So anyway, yeah. So we are very pro AGI. So safer. We have a lot of actually trans and non-binary folks in the server, which is really cool. Because again, it's a great place to get an alternate perspective. And there's a higher percentage of autistic people are LGBT or LGBT plus than in the general population.
Yep.
No one's quite sure why. It may have something to do with our lack of interest in conformity to social norms or freedom to be ourselves, maybe. But for whatever reason, there's a lot more autistic people in the LGBT community than it's the higher percent.
Yes.
And a lot of those are trans or non-binary. So that's why the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, because they cover that, they help with that, and they have all these great resources for you to check out.
Thank you. That was that was exactly what I was looking for. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, tell Sharon I sent you. It's awesome.
Yes. The Autistic, the Women and Non-Binary Network does a lot of great work in basically bridging the disparity. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Network does too, but there are a lot of needs specific to women and non-binary autistic folk that need to be addressed because of the matter of disparity. So there's definitely a need for special attention on women and on transgender folk and non-binary folk and gender fluid folk in the autistic community. And so this is the first that I've ever actually heard of them was when you mentioned them when I joined the server. And I'm finding out a lot about a lot of these things by osmosis because I found out about the Autistic Gaming Initiative from Noor, who you all are going to be hearing from later, mentioning them. When he was like, hey, it's cool that you're doing this thing. By the way, have you heard of the Autistic Gaming Initiative? And I was like, no, I haven't. And then I was like, hey, what organizations do you support? When I came into the Discord server, fully expecting to maybe have to have the talk about Autism Speaks, but probably not that one, but maybe Autism Research Institute, which that's another one we'll have to talk about. And it was like, no, it's the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and the Autistic Non-Binary Network. Or, Women and Non-Binary Network. And I was like, what is that? So it was a really, refreshing thing to hear about them. And, the server, the Twitter feed was dropped. Or the Twitter was dropped 15 minutes ago. I'm going to drop it again. And I suggest you join that Twitter and also join that Discord. And I'm going to move forward a little bit. I want to talk about some issues-based discussion, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So, and this is the part where swearing is both allowed and encouraged. because these questions range from things that are like common and informative to very controversial topics. And by controversial, I mean that there is definitely a consensus and we don't align with it. So the first question is on language. With regards to like people first language, person with autism versus disability first or autistic person, which do you prefer and why?
So that depends on. I tend to let people choose what they want themselves because that's ultimately their decision. I tend to use autistic person because when I say people with whatever, I'm usually saying like if they have a disease, and I don't really like saying putting autism like in the same like which is like I could like right now I could say I am a person or I am a person with a thyroid disorder, which I am.
Yeah.
But that's something I have, whereas autism. So I tend to be more likely to say autistic than with. I'll be much more likely to say I'm an autistic person, and just for me personally, that's how I choose to identify. But if you're autistic, it's up to you to choose how you want to describe yourself. Just don't let anyone else tell you how to for you. That's where I have my issue with it. Tells you like, oh no, people. It's like it has to be people first because you are a person. I'm like, well, if you have to remind yourself that I'm a person, like, why? Why do you have to remind yourself that I'm a person? What is dehumanizing your eyes when I say I'm autistic? It raises a lot of questions, about this. So it's just it's really up to I think it's up to the autistic person themselves to say how they want to describe themselves, versus if a non-autistic person how to describe yourself, you have every right to tell them.
Right.
They're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. My opinion on the matter is, we're gonna talk about this more in the panel because I'm gonna have more space for like Matt and Sam Wings to talk about this as well. But my opinion on the matter is just generally, it's person centered instead of people first or disability first. So it's not plural; it's just individual as often as possible. It's the same sort of thing as for like just like pronouns are essentially the same as like adjectives for like disability or neurodivergence or whatever. When in doubt, just ask what somebody wants to be called. Just bottom line.
That's a good way of looking. It's like pronoun.
Right. So this is a question about self-diagnosis. And I know that on the Autistic Gaming Initiative server, self-diagnosis is equally as valid as formal diagnosis. Do you think that it should also be considered so for disability accommodations? And if not, what should be done about self-diagnosis?
Self-diagnosis is one of those things that's tough because a lot of people just don't have the resources to get diagnosed professionally.
Right.
And I know that's why a lot of people have to resort to it. And that's why we are okay with it in AGI, because a lot of these people don't have the opportunity to get the resources they need to get diagnosed. So, in that sense, it's absolutely okay. But it can be very difficult, if people are. I'm trying to really think of how to put. Like we want people to be able to come to terms with their identity. It's very important. But they don't always have the opportunity to do that professionally. Like I have a legal diagnosis. I had it professionally done. It's a paper that says, "Hey, this person is." Do with that what you may.
Right. You're cutting out just a little bit as well.
Sorry. There we go. Let me try this. Is this better?
Yeah.
I'll try to talk microphone. There we go. And whereas like somebody else who maybe didn't have the opportunities I did, they could be like, okay, I'm exactly like her. I'm probably autistic, but they may like go and get that diagnosis because it can be expensive. There's a lot of like classes in the way of getting. Sometimes a lot of social issues and it's even harder, even when a person is autistic, since it's harder for them to straight up get the diagnosis,
Right.
because, you know, like, they're
For
they're not
example,
being taken seriously. Yeah,
they might be a woman.
exactly. Yeah,
Like, why are 85% of all autism diagnoses male, for example?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I totally get that. I do feel like maybe we should address that issue on a systemic basis of like, hey, let's provide greater access to like formal diagnostic, pathways. But um, it's definitely something that is an ongoing disparity because basically diagnoses are gatekept and services are gatekept by diagnoses. So it's definitely a massive struggle on that front.
Yeah, that's like a biggest problem. Like, a lot of people have to self-diagnose, but they still don't get access to service they need, and that's a problem. It's just and like, you know, kids who aren't white are more likely to be told they have behavioral issues, told they're autistic,
Yeah.
and they get dismissed by that. So then, like, they don't get diagnosed, and it's a big. And if we can maybe fix that, then maybe like less people will even feel like they self-diagnose in the
Right.
first place, and to find that and get their.
Okay. Yeah. You cut out again, by the way.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Do you have your I'm just gonna sidetrack for a sec. Do you have your in your user settings, do you have a noise gate or something like that on your
Oh, let me see. Yeah, it says I'm connected.
because it
Shit, I'm on my phone, so let me look.
okay, because I noticed that it mostly cuts out when you get quieter, so it might be that you're not being picked up.
Okay, yeah. Don't get rid of my. There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so it should, there we go. I'll just talk louder.
All right. Yes. Be louder. Yell if
Okay,
necessary.
there we go.
If you're not,
Okay, yeah, there.
cool. Okay, this next question is about slurs. What should be done about slurs directed at people with autism, like Spurglord? Um, the use of autism and autistic descriptors as a slur, so like autist or aspie, and
Yeah.
the use of expressions which diminish autistic people, like the autistic screech.
Yeah.
Do you think that any of these can be repurposed or reclaimed, like gay has in the LGBT plus community? Um, and what about incongruous uses, like that's not directed at anyone, that just someone screeching as a form of expression on their own?
Yeah, it's very tough. Like, I actually had to explain to somebody on Facebook fairly recently, an older person, like in their sixth, um, the origins of libtard. I had to explain to them why, where the tard part of that came from and why it's not really a good term.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Yeah, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like leave it to the only disabled person to like come in and be like, actually, hang on a second. You can identify as like being proudly like liberal. That's not the problem, but like, don't repurpose that one.
Yeah.
Uh, like, I know you want to repurpose that, but like, it comes from the R word. Please don't like. And I mean, and actually, somebody on the New York Giants here, he tweeted at someone, called them the R word, and he was cut from the team. So things are changing, I guess, that way, which is an improvement.
That's good.
But yeah, the New York Football Giants. So that was nice to like, oh, okay. But like that word is still slung around like a lot, and I see that one I think more than any other. I have to, every so often if I hear it, I'll kind of step in and be like, it's like you kind of forgot there was an autistic person in the room. Good job
Yeah.
on it. Uh, um, I mean, my favorite insult. I mean, there's just using a person's identity as an insult is, I mean, not only degrading, but it's also just lazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to be like, I think the best insults are just creative wordplay. Like I love. I think one of my favorite things is I have a tendency to call people like fuckwad a lot if I'm pissed off at them. That's a favorite, but that doesn't degrade anybody. That's just calling them a wad of fucks.
Yes.
So, which is, not necessarily a good thing to be, but it's not directed at their identity as a person. So,
I one of my favorite authors, Christopher Moore, would use fuckstick, or at least he's my favorite, one of my favorite authors growing up. I used to read a lot of his books when I was in my teens. But fuckstick was a big one in a couple of his earlier books. Lately, I've appropriated the Tumblr trend of calling someone something completely incongruous, like you absolute wombat.
Yeah, that's great. I love when I think one of my favorite things that has come out of Tumblr is just very weird insults. It's like we've come like full circle back to Shakespeare, and it's kind of great.
Yes.
And I mean, like my box where I keep my eggs in Pokemon Shield is actually called "What You Egg," which is a line from Macbeth.
Yes.
And,
oh, that's from
because,
Macbeth?
That's from Macbeth. It's right before Macbeth's, I guess, crony stabs all of Macduff's.
What you egg? Stab.
Yeah, the kid stands up to him and he calls the kid an egg. He's basically going, "Oh, you child."
Right.
But I just love that line. "What you egg?" It's just so funny, and it just followed up by "He stabs him."
He stabs him. What you egg? He stabs him.
I'm like, that's beautiful. That should be up there with that by a bear.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like in terms of insults, like it's hard. I know reclaiming can be hard. I know for some people they feel empowered by it. Other people not so. It's one of those things. I think that it depends on the person and how they feel about it. But like I know some people who like using queer and some people who don't.
Right.
Kind of the same fashion. And whereas so I know some people who are I guess okay with using and it's I mean it's like we have that whole euphemism treadmill, so like certain words like the R word was the medical term,
Yes.
and then became a slur. It the term now is intellectual or developmental,
right,
which make more sense, and you can't really use those as slurs. They're really hard to whereas now our word is you don't say it, just so I mean, as things change, this language changes, hopefully they change. But like when people do use those things, and I do see them clearly being directed at autistic people, I usually call them tired. I'm 30 years old. I'm too old for this shit, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to throw hands all the time. I mean, I'm Sicilian and I'm from New Jersey. I'm ready to throw hands like all the time, but like this. One of those things where I will just call people out on it and be like, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but you're actually talking to a person who is this.
Right.
And shouldn't do that. And if it sometimes I actually can get them to like feel really guilty.
Yeah.
if I word it like in a certain way, I can get people guys like by.
Yeah, exactly.
I grew up in the age of the internet where you had to learn to control to like defend yourself, so I'm really good at like kind of subtly manipulating trolls into doing what I want them to do.
Right.
And I love that I can do this. I feel like such a crafty bastard every time I do it. It's great.
Yep.
But
it's kind of like how like oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not gay, but I hit on anyone who uses homophobic slurs just to make them feel really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes you just kind of manipulate them into subtly, getting them to actually, or they realize like you're no fun, and they'll be like, oh well, I can do this, and they leave. And if you could just like either make them bored or make them like genuinely apologize, like those are the outcomes.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to like resort to sometimes you have to settle for bored. Bored is good because they'll realize they can't get anything out of it. Like there's some subreddit community. I don't know exactly what they do, but that poll on 4chan hates them because they just derail every argument with poll with requesting dick pic, and they just do this over and over again until let poll give up. and it's great because it completely turns their own tactics against them. It's fantastic.
Is that's Chapo Trap House's post hog? I think they do the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's them. I think it might be them. Yeah, so they're fantastic.
Oh yeah, I definitely like just see someone like just drop like a really shit take and something like that, and there's just like dozens of responses that are post hog chud.
Yeah.
All right, now we're getting into the meat. This is the ones that you can really sink your teeth into, and this is swearing is
Okay.
totally encouraged from this point on. Vaccines. What's the best way to
Oh
address
yeah.
the vaccine autism myth?
So I'm pretty sure I was autistic before I was vaccinated. Um,
Yeah, that works.
yeah, pretty sure because before I was vaccinated,
Oh, you cut out.
I was at some parent-child like music class thing, and I was crying because everyone was communally singing, and I guess it was probably too loud for me. And my mom overheard some parent go, "What's wrong with that baby?" So yeah, the autism before the egg, so to speak. And I was autistic before I was vaccinated, so I was born like this. And I mean, the vaccines thing is always. Luckily, I don't really, since I work in a library, I don't deal with anti-vax folks because generally librarians are pretty informed people. I tend to run into them more online. And
Yeah.
also my roommate works at a vegan juice place. She's not vegan, she just works there. And she has encountered a lot of these people who seem to be anti-medicine in that they just try to take a lot of ginger or other things for their problems that probably could actually and should actually be treated medically,
Right.
but they don't want to acknowledge that. A lot of that is due to the whole and it worries me because there's people who actually deficient, small children, the elderly, people with autoimmune disorders who are in danger because of it.
Right.
So here in New Jersey, I think we actually passed the bill. I don't know if it's been signed into law yet, but we did, I think, pass it. It's to basically limit vaccine exemptions in public schools to it's even gone beyond religious exemptions, and now you have to have like a doctor's note, like you have to be like immunocompromised, not have it,
Right.
because we've had a lot of measles outbreaks in a lot of religious communities
Hmm.
in this area because they didn't believe in vaccination, and then a lot of them were getting measles, and smallpox is starting to make a comeback as well. So it's kind of
I wonder if these two things are related.
yeah. I wonder. Yeah. So it's I know a lot of the anti-vax rhetoric is just rooted in fear and hatred of autistic people. They'd rather have a dead child than a child like me.
Yep.
And I don't think that's cool because I'm pretty great. So I don't know. I think I turned out all right. I think pretty much every autistic person I've met has been all right. So we don't really. We're not. I'd rather be like this than have than like be dying of consumption because I don't have access to penicillin. I mean, this is clearly an upgrade from dying Victorian child here. So,
Yes.
and I mean, I live in an age where I can get resources where a lot more people understand how I am this way. So, there's really no reason at this point. Please, for the love of whatever deity you worship, if you worship one, multiple, please vaccinate the child. Just it's very frustrating to have to explain to people over and over again that
Vaccines cause adults.
vaccines cause adults, and that existing the way I am is not a fate with death, not in the slightest. So, I mean, I'd rather have a child is just themselves versus. So,
Yeah.
I think most people who want children prefer that. So, please stay up to date with your vaccination.
Exactly.
If you were, and while I'm at it, if you work with the elderly or small children, it's probably a good idea to get your flu shot every. Throwing that in.
Yeah.
Just to be safe. yeah, I actually have to still go get mine. Whoops.
Yeah,
Anyway, but yeah,
actually, same.
do that. Yeah, do that, please. If you work with the public, just to be safe, you'll protect a lot of people that way.
Yeah,
And if you do, and if you get the flu anyway, stay home, please, if you
absolutely.
can. Yeah. But
Uh,
anyway, enough of that. Yeah.
yes, let's leave that discussion in the trash heap.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
behaviorism. Do you think autism should be treated behaviorally as it commonly is? And if so, to what extent? To what degree
Uh,
of invasiveness or of like methods or behavioral modification? And if
oh
not,
yes,
what alternative should be used?
this is like ABA and stuff.
Yes,
Um,
ABA, but also
yeah.
like the lesser extents, like speech and language pathology, um,
Yeah.
and also just like behavioral intervention in schools that isn't ABA but is still behavioral modification.
Yeah. I think what I would have liked as a kid, I guess it would have been nice. Like things like that were actually helpful, like social skills training and life skills and other things that I could have used as an adult. And I mean that goes beyond like beyond autism too. Like if you just straight up, had more life skills taught in school, I had to in college I had to Google how to write a check out to make sure I was doing it right because no one taught me. That should have been taught to me in school, or like doing my taxes. That would have been great.
Yeah,
I just, but like in terms of like behavioral stuff, I would have really appreciated things like social skills training, also teaching people who are not like me that I am an acceptable way of existing. Because I know a lot of it is because most of what autistic people's behaviors are perfectly harmful. But socially, they tend to how we get ostracized a lot. And so what I would love to see here is I think like instead of just teaching autistic people, not to be autistic, I would prefer that they taught non-autistic people to be more accepting,
right,
understand the difference between this is an autistic person and this is somebody who actually is doing something harmful and should be avoided at all costs.
right.
Because I mean, it benefits everybody really.
Yeah.
Because with things like ABA, like I know a lot of people who were traumatized by ABA.
Hmm.
I never received any get diagnosed until I was an adult. But I've heard a lot of horror stories. I've heard a lot of people say that like it's actually made them more compliant and more, therefore, like more available to be abused or treated horribly by other people. Uh, that basically it had become compliance training for them, and less it was, and a lot of people just are traumatized. They're very, they're still working through all these issues because that this caused, and so there really has to be a better way than. I mean, if the therapy is causing lasting trauma in people, it's probably not working the
Right.
way that it should. And I mean, whereas I think like other things like that would be beneficial, like some social skills training and like how to do certain tasks like that, much more helpful in the long run for, um, creating like happy, confident adults who know how to do things and like preparing them for a society that might not be accepting of them as they are a healthy, constructive way. I
Right.
think a lot better telling them not, to just suppress who they are. Because we've already been suppressing who we are,
Right.
told by people that we're bad. And then, you go to this training and then they tell you, oh, you are bad. And it's like, well, thanks, you're not helping. So I think there's got to be a better way than behavioral training because it's hurting a lot of the kids it purports to. And it's hurting them. It's these very, adults who have a lot of issues emotionally because this training hurt them as children.
Right. Um, yeah, absolutely. This is the last issues question. Um,
Okay.
autistic medicalism. Uh,
Oh yeah.
should autism, under any circumstances, be treated medically? And this involves things like, which this is an unambiguously bad thing, chelation therapy, which is effectively just feeding your kid bleach, which is just bad. But also things um, like CRISPR, which has been purported to be able to treat autism in mice, basically by just getting rid of the autism gene in like the uh, incubating period for the mouse. If it could be cured, as some organizations believe, or at least collect money to research, should it?
I mean, that's eugenics. So yeah, I mean, actually, I'm gonna go historian. Contrary to popular, the Nazis did not invent eugenics. It was actually invented by Americans.
Yep.
So it's our fault, guys. It's our fault. Like many problems in the world, it is America's fault. Again, but we invented eugenics here in the early 20th century. Actually, imbecile, moron, and idiot were all different levels of IQ tests. I can't remember which order they went in, but they were different levels of, intelligence done by these eugenics doctors. They just all came to me stupid. Euphemism, treadmill.
Yep.
So that's why you'll see some people say don't use those words or don't even stupid because they've I mean those are kind of words where it's kind of a tougher call than the R word, but anyway. So with eugenics has always been around for about 100, and we're stuck with the ramifications of it. Iceland, I think, eliminated Down syndrome, which is sketchy as well. In that they just went in and were modifying, the genes to remove a natural mutation of human genetics. Down syndrome it's just you have the extra 23rd chromosome.
Right.
And the extra chromosomes. Like, I mean, autism is a natural genetic variation in that our brains work differently than people's who don't, who aren't autistic, and whose brains don't work at all. Jeez. Okay. Be more subtle. No.
Yeah.
That's like, but like, it's like, Steph, you need to go to sleep. But like my brain works differently than say my roommates and my brothers and like all that. And it's actually good that it does because I notice things that like other people don't and vice versa. And it actually allows us to kind of cover each other's bases. So I'm very detail oriented and it makes me an absolutely mind-blowingly good archivist. I'm really good at cataloging and doing metadata, and I can do it very quickly with very little to no errors because that's how my brain works. It's really good at picking that up.
Right.
But a guy flirts with me, I won't know how to deal with that, or half the time won't even notice it. Have like a friend be like, "I was hitting on." Oh shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you mean I missed that one? Another one? Oh, dang it. It doesn't happen. Most
Right.
people think I'm like, because I look like a child. But when it does, I'm like, oh, damn it. No, but like I have social depth, but I make up for
Right.
my attention to detail and certain skills I have. So when an organization like the Blue Hell folks over at Autism, they come along and they want to cure me of something that is intrinsic to my being, it would basically turn me to a different person. And I don't really like the idea of that. It's very frightening, actually, when you think about the ramifications, how it would actually, who I am as a person, because it would change how I react to certain things, how I act in the world, how conscious or unconscious I am of certain things. It would actually, it's kind of horrifying when you think about that they would rather have me dead than have me as I am now.
Right.
And I'm not I know I'll talk about Action E4 a lot, which the Nazis test run for the for their so-called final solution, where they, killed 6 million Jewish people.
Right.
They tested their gas chambers on disabled people, a program called Action, because they considered us burdens to society who didn't contribute anything, and they killed us. And that was, obviously very horrific. And when you think about it, like in that, you realize, like, okay, so at best we're seen as expendable. And so when people talk about like the cure rhetoric or whatever, it's like, so you me as something that needs to be eliminated.
Right.
I don't really take to that very well at all. I don't like the idea of somebody trying to get rid of me for existing as I am, because, it's not really any different than, white supremacism. Like to get rid of everybody who doesn't look like them and have their little society, their horribly undiverse society, genetically homogenous, with it's bad. It's bad not just because it's racist, it's bad genetically.
Right.
So, it's just, I mean, look at the Habsburgs are like the perfect not marry your cousin. They all had like chins down to their chest. But I'll like, I'm gonna, if I stop from, going off on a history. But yeah, long story short, eugenics generally not a good thing. And it, when you have this cure rhetoric thrown at you, you end up thinking, oh, I'm a bad person. This people want to get rid of me, or they want to cure me of something that is my identity or who I am. And when I was first diagnosed, because of that, I thought I wasn't going to get anywhere or do anything. I thought I was like, oh, this is it. My life ends here. I'm incompetent. These people think that I'm cured or like otherwise eliminated.
Right.
And it was actually finding the self-advocate community that really pulled me out of that. It was like, no, you're valid and you're a valued member of society. Now I have a master's degree and I work in a public library. And I have a job with benefits. So, like I wouldn't have gotten there if I had, kept these people just want me dead.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And I totally concur, by the way. This is not really a question for me so much as it is for the people who need to hear it. Don't fucking bleach your kids.
Yeah, please do not do that.
And don't chase cures. And
yeah.
there are a lot of organizations out there that purport to, or that claim to support autism, people with autism, that are chasing cures. And be mindful of what people are doing with your money when you donate. And that's why we're raising money for the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and why Steph supports this group and the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, and not, I'm going to do some call-outs here, Autism Speaks, the Autism Research Institute, or other organizations like them. I'm throwing hands.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna just about wrap it up. I have a couple more things we can just trail off with. I, as a streamer and a person with autism, would like to formally join the Autistic Gaming Initiative in whatever manner that entails. What would I need to do in order to do that?
Okay, well, you're over 18 and you're a streamer, so you're pretty much all set.
Cool.
So anyone can join the Discord, regardless of whether or not you're autistic. I have, a few friends in here. I have, one of my friends is the server. She's not autistic, but she does have ADHD, which is like our first cousin, neurologically. So, and she's also like one of my best friends. So she's in the server, mostly just, it's cool. But the server is open to anybody. It's a great place for autistic people. But if you're not, you can still hang out. And to be an actual streamer for AGI, you have to be at least, mostly just because we want to protect minors, for people who are awful, because trolls on the, especially if they find out you're autistic, they can be, jerks. So I want to make sure that people can handle it. They have to be adults and all that. And then generally our other rule is just to be a jerk.
Yeah.
And we've had that's kind of the one main, people are gonna, this is a diverse group of people in here, treat them all with respect and all that. Fight for rights for everybody. punch Nazi. Good thing.
Yes.
You know, punch Nazi. If you ever meet a Nazi, please punch. Be happy. But yeah, joining AGI is pretty straightforward. Go to our Discord. It should be linked in our Twitter profile, and cool. Every time someone joins the server, I get notified that they joined the server, and I get to go meet another person, which is awesome. We're like, let me see. Yeah, we have like well over like we have like 125 people in the server are offline. And then another like 29 who are 30 who are online, and then 12. Yeah, so there's like well over 150 people in the server now. Quite a few of them are active, so there's something for everyone. If you are interested in like having a chat for a specific game or anything, like just message me or a mod, we'll put it in. And if you want to stream with us, our streams are the last weekend of the month. We can basically plug you into a time slot and stream.
So it's like relay style.
Yeah, relay style. Like we hand it off, like pass the.
Okay, cool.
First, like we just raid the next person usually to transfer them all over, make it easier. And
nice.
I kind of was like again looking at the Vine Sauce model, how they did it, because they inspired me to do this. So, and what they did worked, so I was like, okay, we'll do that. And that seems, pretty good. So generally with AGIs, they're usually people take a 2-hour time slot. The more streamers we have, the more flexible we'll be in terms of having like backups and people who can jump in if somebody else has to back out, which that happens sometimes. So the more the merrier. We can always adjust things or even make streams go like 3 days if we have to. The more people we get, so it's great. It's just a lot of fun to do this, to watch each other support each other.
Cool.
So if you want to join us, please come on in. We would be happy to have any of you.
All right. And someone who's not autistic or not a streamer, how can they support AGI?
So you can pay off my student loans. They are through Nelnet. No. If you want to actually, the best way to support us is, promoting our streams is great. I have a lot of my help streams and stuff. You can donate to ASAN or AWN, the phenomenal organization worthy of your support. Tell people who are trying to donate to Autism to donate to those instead, because they need more. And those are definitely, I think when we're streaming, we appreciate like people shouting us out, just coming in and watching the streams is really cool, sharing us, bringing in raid parties if they're a streamer on Twitch and they see we're streaming. That stuff really helps. So all of that is great. People
Good.
in and bringing awareness of charities to really get the correct charities in the limelight is great. But if you do want to pay off my student loans, I would appreciate that, because I have rent. So yeah, I have to feed Murphy and myself. I have rent, so.
Good.
But yeah, that's basically the deal. Yeah.
Okay. I actually had one last one.
Yeah.
Matt just brought up, he is not autistic, but he is a streamer. What can non-autistic streamers do to support AGI?
Oh, okay, great. So if you guys want to like promote us, that's fantastic. If you want to, if you see one of us streaming, you can come in with a raid party and get people to see our stream. You can tell people about the AGI, so you can host us. You can host our streams during the charity event. That's awesome. And anything that can help us get more, like eyeballs on us is great. And also just going out in the world and like, correcting people who are, still have, bad opinions about, or, are misguided in terms of how autism works. And just kind of, helping people see that we're human first is really great, because a lot of people see us as some kind of like not quite human thing, some kind of other, And, despite all evidence to the contrary, I am a human being, and, I was born on this planet. So just things like that are great. Like if you see someone in your chat, using like autism as an insult, just kind of ban them or tell them to do that. Little things like that go a long way.
Yeah. Like, TLDR, raid autistic streamers during AGI, view autistic streamers, help platform us, and in your stream, just make a community that an autistic person would want to come into.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steph, thank you very much for joining me.
No
If
problem.
you'd like to stick
No
around,
problem.
and just we've been doing like sort of this informal Q&A format for the first part of the stream. If you'd like to stick around and spectate and chat with us, you're totally welcome to. If you need to dip out, you can just freely join and leave the call whenever.
Okay. Yeah, because I have to go to dinner in a bit. So.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me. I super appreciated it. Have a great stream.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.